Today I would like to invite you to listen to the Dhammapada of the Buddha Sakyamuni, the 182nd verses from the Buddhist scriptures on the YouTube channel Thien Thai in the USA. In the teaching of the Blessed One, there is a verse that gently opens the heart and turns the mind toward gratitude for human existence. It speaks softly yet deeply about the preciousness of being born as a human being, the difficulty of living in this world of change, the rarity of hearing the true Dharma, and the even greater rarity of a Buddha appearing in the world. When we reflect on these words, we are not simply learning doctrine. We are being invited to look directly at life itself. Human birth is not something ordinary when seen with wisdom. It is a rare opportunity among countless forms of existence. In the vast cycles of life and death described in the teachings, beings arise in many conditions. But only in human birth does the mind have the balance of suffering and happiness needed to understand truth clearly. The difficulty of mortal life is not described to create fear, but to awaken awareness. Every being experiences change. Youth becomes age. Health becomes sickness. Meeting becomes separation. Gain becomes loss. These are not punishments, but natural expressions of impermanence. When we understand this clearly, we begin to loosen attachment and open space for peace. The verse also reminds us that hearing the sublime truth is not easy. Many live and die without ever encountering teachings that point directly to liberation. Even when the Dharma is available, the mind may be distracted, busy, or turned away. Thus, hearing truth requires both outer opportunity and inner readiness. And finally, the appearance of a Buddha in the world is described as extremely rare. A Buddha is one who awakens fully, who sees reality without distortion, and who compassionately teaches a path beyond suffering. Such beings do not arise often in the vastness of time. When they do, it is like a great light appearing in darkness. To understand the meaning of this teaching more deeply, we turn to a traditional story preserved in Buddhist memory. In a time long after the passing of a previous Buddha, there was a small village surrounded by forests and rivers. The people lived simple lives, farming the land and trading goods in a nearby town. Among them was an elderly man who had spent most of his life focused on work and family responsibility. He was kind, but had never shown deep interest in spiritual teachings. Life was always busy, and he believed there would always be time later for such matters. One day, a wandering monk arrived in the village. This monk had heard teachings preserved from ancient times and carried with him the message of impermanence and awakening. He spoke gently to the villagers, reminding them that life is uncertain and that wisdom should not be delayed. Many listened briefly but returned quickly to their routines. The elderly man also heard the monk speak. At first, he felt no urgency. He thought that such teachings were for those who had no responsibilities. Yet that night, something unusual happened. A storm passed through the region, and strong winds damaged several homes. In the confusion, the man witnessed how quickly stability could vanish. The next morning, he returned to the monk and listened more carefully. The monk explained that being born as a human is rare because countless lives exist in suffering states where understanding cannot easily arise. Even among humans, only a few encounter teachings that point toward liberation. The monk also said that true understanding comes not from hearing alone, but from reflection and practice. As the elderly man listened, something shifted inside him. He began to see that his life, though ordinary, was not guaranteed. Each breath was temporary. Each moment was unique and unrepeatable. He realized that he had taken simple existence for granted without recognizing its depth. From that day forward, he began to live more mindfully. He reduced unnecessary speech, acted with greater kindness, and spent time reflecting on the teachings he had heard. Though he did not become a monk, his heart gradually became lighter and more peaceful. This story is not told to glorify a single moment, but to show how awareness can arise in any life when conditions are present. The Dharma does not demand escape from the world, but clarity within it. When we reflect on the rarity described in the verse, we are invited to value this present moment. We may not always feel that life is rare, because repetition creates familiarity. Yet from the perspective of vast time and countless possibilities, this moment of awareness is extraordinary. The teaching gently points us toward gratitude. Gratitude for breath. Gratitude for awareness. gratitude for the possibility of understanding truth even slightly. In this way, the Dharma does not pull us away from life, but brings us fully into it. When life flows smoothly, there is a tendency to assume that it will always remain the same. The mind becomes occupied with planning, acquiring, maintaining, and protecting. In this movement, awareness of deeper truth often becomes quiet in the background. Yet the teaching gently reminds us that this very life is fragile, not in a fearful sense, but in the sense that it is constantly changing and cannot be controlled. To be born as a human being is compared to something extremely rare because it requires countless conditions coming together. The physical body, the consciousness, the environment, and the moral causes from past actions are all said to align in a way that does not happen frequently. From this perspective, each human life is not ordinary, even when it appears ordinary. The difficulty of mortal life is also not merely about hardship. Even moments of happiness carry change within them. Joy passes, relationships shift, health fluctuates. Possessions do not remain under control forever. When the mind understands this clearly, it does not become pessimistic. Instead, it becomes honest and grounded. Honesty with impermanence is the beginning of wisdom. Without this understanding, people may chase lasting security in things that cannot provide it. With this understanding, the heart begins to search for something deeper than temporary satisfaction. The teaching about hearing the sublime truth is especially subtle. It does not only refer to physically hearing words of Dharma. It also refers to the inner readiness to truly understand them. Many may hear teachings, yet the meaning does not enter deeply because the mind is distracted or not yet open. Thus, hearing becomes rare not because the words are absent, but because the conditions for understanding are delicate. There is an old traditional reflection that compares this situation to a lotus flower in a muddy pond. Many flowers remain closed under the water, while only a few rise above the surface and bloom fully in the light. In the same way, beings may be surrounded by teachings, but only a few open fully to them. The appearance of a Buddha in the world is described as even more rare because it requires an extraordinary convergence of wisdom, compassion, and time. A Buddha is one who fully understands the nature of suffering and its end, and then teaches that path without confusion. Such an appearance is not considered a common historical event, but a profound moment in the vast movement of existence. In traditional stories passed down through generations, there is an account of a young seeker who once lived near a forest monastery. This young person often heard monks chanting and speaking about impermanence, but did not initially feel moved by their words. Life felt full of future possibilities, and spiritual urgency seemed distant. One day, while walking near the river, the young seeker encountered an elderly monk sitting quietly beneath a tree. The monk was not speaking or teaching, only observing the flowing water. When asked what he was doing, the monk replied that he was watching how the river never stays the same even for a moment. He explained that just as the river cannot be stopped, life also flows without pause. The body changes, thoughts arise and disappear, and time moves forward without waiting. The monk then said that understanding this flow clearly is the beginning of freedom from suffering. The young seeker was not immediately transformed, but something subtle had entered the mind. Over time, the image of the flowing river returned again and again. Eventually, the seeker began to notice personal experiences in the same way. Thoughts came and went. Emotions rose and faded. Even strong feelings did not remain unchanged. Through this gradual observation, the mind began to soften. What once felt solid and fixed became fluid and temporary. This recognition did not lead to detachment from life, but to a deeper appreciation of each moment. In the same way, when reflecting on the rarity of human birth and the difficulty of encountering truth, the intention is not to create distance from life, but to bring a sense of reverence toward it. Each moment becomes more meaningful when seen as unique and unrepeatable. Even ordinary actions such as speaking, listening, walking, or resting can become part of awareness when the mind is present. The Dharma does not require removal from daily life. It invites clarity within daily life. When understanding begins to grow, compassion also naturally arises. Seeing the shared condition of impermanence, one begins to feel gentleness toward others who are also moving through change, confusion, and longing. In this way, wisdom and compassion support each other. The teaching continues to point toward direct seeing rather than conceptual belief. It encourages observation of life as it is, without distortion. When this observation becomes steady, even briefly, the mind experiences a sense of peace that is not dependent on external conditions. When a person understands the rarity of human existence, life begins to be seen with greater care. Actions are no longer treated as insignificant. Words are no longer spoken without reflection. Thoughts are no longer left completely unattended. This does not arise from fear, but from clarity. Just as one would treat a rare and valuable treasure with respect, so too does one begin to treat life itself with mindfulness. The difficulty of mortal life is not meant to create sorrow, but to reveal truth. Everything that arises will pass. Every condition will change. Every experience, whether pleasant or painful, is not permanent. When this is understood deeply, the mind becomes less burdened. It stops clinging as tightly to things that cannot remain. The teaching on hearing the sublime truth becomes especially meaningful when we realize that understanding is not merely intellectual. A person may hear many words, read many teachings, or listen many times, yet still remain unchanged inwardly. True hearing happens when the heart becomes open, when pride softens, when distraction quiets, and when sincerity arises. At that moment, even a simple teaching can become a doorway to liberation. The rare appearance of a Buddha in the world is a reminder of the highest possibility of human existence. It shows that awakening is not only an idea, but a reality that has been realized by living beings. A Buddha is one who has fully understood suffering and the end of suffering, and compassionately points the way for others. Such an appearance is rare because it depends on vast conditions of time, virtue, and wisdom coming together. In the traditional spirit of the Dharma, there is a story told of a traveler who once wandered through many lands seeking meaning. This traveler had experienced wealth and loss, praise and blame, success and failure. Yet none of these conditions brought lasting peace. One day, the traveler encountered a simple gathering where teachings of impermanence were being shared. At first, the traveler listened without special interest. But as the teaching continued, something became still inside. The words were not complicated, yet they pointed directly to experience. Everything is changing. Nothing can be held forever. Understanding this, the mind began to rest in a way it had never done before. The traveler realized that throughout life, there had always been searching, but never true arrival. In that moment of reflection, the search itself began to soften, not because life became perfect, but because expectation began to dissolve. What remained was a quiet awareness of the present moment. This is the heart of the teaching, not escape from life, but clear seeing within life. Not rejection of the world, but understanding of its nature. When this understanding is present, even ordinary existence becomes meaningful. Each breath becomes an opportunity for awareness. Each encounter becomes an opportunity for kindness. Each moment becomes an opportunity for understanding. Life does not need to be changed into something else in order for truth to be realized. Only the way of seeing needs to be gently purified. When we reflect on this verse as a whole, we see that it is not only describing rarity in a statistical sense. It is pointing toward appreciation. Appreciation of being alive. Appreciation of the possibility of understanding. Appreciation of the path that leads beyond suffering. As this reflection concludes, the invitation is simple: to live with awareness, to remember impermanence without fear, to listen for truth with sincerity, to recognize the preciousness of this moment before it passes. The teaching gently returns us to ourselves, not as something separate from life, but as part of the flow of life itself. In this recognition, peace becomes possible, not as something gained, but as something revealed. Nama Amitabha, blessed to all. I hope to bring this merit towards all disciples and sentient beings, all of whom will attain Buddhahood. Please click like, share, and subscribe to help me grow my YouTube channel. Thanks you for watching my video.